All right, we're here with Claude Hickman, who just shared with us about God's heart for the world. And Claude, I know right now one of the big things is the 1040 window and the big need that is in that location, but there's also a lot, the way the world is changing, maybe fears and kind of difficulty picturing ourselves being there. How do we address the way the world is changing in that area right now?
You're absolutely right. Like, one of the things that I've realized is, as a college student, it would be incredibly frustrating to try to figure life out right now, because we live in a world where not only are governments changing all the time, security, where it's safe is changing. It used to be that all that stuff happened over there, but now, when terrorism and things are happening in our backyard,
Right.
there's questions about where it's safe. There's questions, even just the way our world changes as far as economy and industries and engineering. I was saying this morning that a freshman could start a degree in a science that's obsolete by the time they're a senior.
Yeah,
And
wow.
so I think a lot of parents and adults don't understand why young people have trouble kind of launching into life, but they're looking at a world that's changing out from underneath them. And I think more than ever, that's the reason why we have to have a purpose in our life that's more unchanging than this whole world, and something that's going to outlast this whole world.
Yeah.
And so when I think about God's heart for the world and his mission to reach the world, I think, first of all, man, how are you going to get something that outlasts eternity?
Mm-hmm.
If you want to anchor your life to something, anchor your life to something eternal. And then how are you going to get something that's bigger than global?
Mm-hmm.
And just looking at what other people are giving their life to should clue us in that there's something bigger we need to live for. I don't know if you're aware of I think it's the Giving Foundation, or Giving Project. It's Bill Gates, Mark Zuckerberg, a couple of other the wealthiest guys in the world.
Wow.
Made a pact together. Warren Buffett made a pact together to give away up to half of their resources the last couple of years. And so I think, as a young person or anyone,
Mm-hmm.
you got to step back and ask the question: what does Bill Gates know that I don't know? If I'm going to set out in life and my desire is to earn money, and if I think money is going to make me happy, or success or wealth, these are the guys that are on top of the mountain. And if they're on top of the mountain yelling down, wrong mountain,
Right.
we need to take a clue from that there has to be something bigger to give our life to.
Mm-hmm.
And so because of all those things, I think more than ever, young people need to listen and look at what's going on and say, I need to anchor my life into something that's going to far outlast my life.
Yeah, I think that's great. That's a great thing to, bank on, as opposed to the world that's ever changing, focusing on something that isn't changing, and that's Christ. What about for college students in the position that they're in right now? God calls us to have a heart for the world, have a heart for other places, but I'm in college, I'm studying. What does that look like tangibly for students to have a heart for the world?
Absolutely. This is something that honestly has kind of broke my heart the last couple of years. I've been trying to help our church engage in sending long-term missionaries out, and we work with a lot of big organizations like Cru that send long-term missionaries. But many other organizations, their pipeline of people, they come from churches and other places. And one of the problems in world missions is that agencies are sending people overseas who've never learned to share their faith. They've never learned to have spiritual conversations with lost people. They've never learned to take a new believer and disciple him, and how to study the Bible on his own, or how to have a quiet time and pray. And so trying to send them overseas to plant a church is a very difficult learning curve. And what I've seen is that some of the greatest long-term workers are really coming out of the great campus movements, and students are learning to do what Cru does on campus every day, which is relate to their lost friends, reach out, learn how to share your faith real naturally. Because if you can't do that here on your campus, it really isn't going to translate overseas very well. So it's a great place to learn. It's great practice for dropping you into any culture in the world. One of the other advantages of being a university student in America is that we have almost 1 million international students now from many of these other countries that are restricted or very difficult to get into.
Right.
And again, if you're not reaching out to the internationals that are across the hall, don't pretend you're going to move across the ocean. And so the opportunity to impact not just other students, but a lot of times internationals become future leaders in their countries, future leaders around the world. the impact and the potential is incredible to reach out to internationals.
Yeah.
One quick story.
Yeah.
The current president, I believe it's president or vice president of China. I'll have to look that up. I'll have to Google that later. He visited America a couple years ago, and he had an appointment with President Obama. And he said, well, I'll go to Washington, D.C., but first I want to go to Iowa. And most people don't know this. So his first trip to America, he flew and detoured through Iowa and stopped for a week to stay with the family that took him in and cared for him when he was a university student in Iowa.
Oh, wow.
Then he went to meet with the President of the United States.
Yeah.
And so the power and the influence and what it means to reach out to international, you have no idea what that might mean in the future.
Yeah, that's great. Well, thank you so much for being here, for traveling yourself all the way here to share with us, and for helping us get a better picture for God's heart for the world.
Absolutely.
Thanks.
Christopher.
Enjoyed it.